See. All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to our sixth podcast, Elizabeth and I's podcast. Today, we get to welcome Brian Cato, and we're also hoping Chris Palmer can join us. I haven't heard from him this morning, so hopefully he's not having technical issues or at all. And it looks like we also have, Chad Michael with us. So very cool. So, anyways, welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. If you guys have any questions, make sure you ask questions. Please subscribe and like and do all that normal stuff that we're all supposed to tell you to do. And then yeah. So, anyways, let's get started. Brian Cato, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got hijacked into this industry, and all that good stuff. And
I actually fell into digital marketing kind of by happenstance. I was a touring musician all throughout my 20s. Was touring around in a van with three other individuals, and decided I didn't want to be a broke ass musician anymore. So I started building websites. I started doing a lot of stuff like that. I ended up going back to school for business, and based on that, just kind of fell into marketing. Was a project manager, head of SEO, and head of paid search for a company for about 5 years. Broke off and started doing my own thing. So when I broke off, that's really when I started getting into like the R&D, the like serious testing, which is like really kind of what propelled me in the industry, to kind of what I'm doing currently, and a lot of the things that we're currently, playing around with. But the as many people have mentioned on your podcast before, like you've got to be testing. If you don't have at least one site that you can just like act as like a burner site, if it gets destroyed, it gets destroyed, whatever. You're not doing it to clients, but you have something that you're actively testing on, that you're seeing what you can do to push limits, rank a blank page with schema, things like that. If you're not doing that, you're really kind of doing yourself and your clients a disservice, because
I 100%. Especially in all these Facebook groups, a lot of these people will just take these, whoever's this random person said is doing something and at work, and go now all of a sudden throw it on their client site, and it's like, really? So I mean,
2 weeks later, right? My client site tanked. I don't understand what happened.
For sure. And then you get to the point, we're even buying courses, we buy courses all the time, but we test it. We on our testing sites before we just run out and add it to our plumber site or our roofing site or whatever we're doing. Just because, every market's different, what works in Dallas probably doesn't work that well in Phoenix, and vice versa. So you can't just assume just because it's within the same niche, it's going to be the same type of project.
Well, Phoenix is so tough because you got, you guys, we got Chad there, we've got, Clint and Yuma. Like, that's a real, you think that, you look at the, your tool data and you're like, oh, that should be an easy market to go handle. You get in there and it's like, oh shit, we're dealing with some heavy hitters here. This is not so easy to rank in.
Yeah, for sure. I tell people that I don't like Phoenix at all. I actually stay away from even trying to rank in Phoenix, and just because it's a cutthroat city. We actually have an agency here that you can actually hire them for negative SEO. So there is that out here, which is, a lot of people know how I feel about that. But I think the biggest thing is that, it's just, again, people just assume too much. I'm a big believer in niching down, but you also have to make sure, niche down for service, and then play the geo game, stuff like that. So, but anyways, welcome. Thank you for coming. Do you still play? You still do music stuff?
Occasionally here and there. It has been one of those things that it's still, and once a musician, always a musician. I have fun with it, but it's not something that I'm actively pursuing as a career anymore. Like, I've really kind of, found my calling, so to speak, within digital marketing. Really gotten into cybersecurity and a lot of stuff like that as well recently. So
so were you always a tech guy, or did you get into the tech?
I found that I was really decent at tech and then went full bore into it. So when I was going back to school for business, I found out that I'm really decent at database design.
Mm-hmm.
And like just it's the way that the wires are crossed or whatever in my brain that like I can visualize like, okay, this is the structure that things would work in, or this is how, like schemas, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I'm sure being a schema savant yourself, like you can look at that and you can say like, oh, okay, that's what that does, and you read it almost like a second language.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's understanding that that's kind of what a database looks like, how, how particular things work within a database, the constraints of it, the pros, the cons of different, languages within a database, whether you're talking SQL, Postgres, anything like that. Um, for me, it's kind of the way that my brain functions,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to see that, identify the way that it works. Like, yeah, it's something I kind of fell into. So
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because I used to, because I started old school Visual Basic 6, C++, and we used to make fun of all the database nerds because what's a database administrator? Really? You just
yeah,
collect data. You really don't do anything with the data. And so the software guys would freaking just, especially when I started working for Phelps Dodge, because we had our whole data administrative department, and it was just funny because it was always a constant make fun of, what do you guys really do over there?
right. You just got a bunch of data.
You just sit there and babysit servers is all you really do. So, but
Nice.
anyway, but nowadays you can't code without database.
Yeah.
If you depending on what you're coding, but yeah, it's
Yep.
it's crazy. So, well, welcome. So,
Yeah.
and speaking of tech, Mr. Chad Michael, you're a little techie. So, how did you get conned into this business way back when?
Ooh, I was. I think Razorfish might be the answer. Does that name mean anything to you?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they're a big, a well-known digital marketing agency. I don't know if they're still around anymore, but this was in like '98. So Google wasn't even the number one search engine back then. I mean, SEO was just, it was Yahoo, it was Dogpile, it was Google, the
Yeah.
open.
Mhm.
Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, Jeeves, right. AOL search. It was totally different. But I was in music school actually, and there was a company called Razorfish, and they came and just had a free thing, and they're like, hey, we're hiring. They were hiring animators and creators and this was back when Flash was starting to come about, and that was like a big deal, you know what I mean? And it was just so weird to me that they were just taking kids right out of school. They wanted to hire them before they graduated, and they were paying them healthy salaries. And I was like, whoa, like, do you need music? They're like, no. And I was like, shit. So I just started teaching myself to program, at that point. So I started out like with a lot of SEOs do, just building websites, doing HTML and whatever, So then it was a big long progression over the last 23 years of just, programming and usability and color theory and neurolinguistic programming and cold, outreach, direct response marketing, and then rev share and consulting. And I gave up on all that stuff. I just do SEO for myself anymore. Like, I just don't have the patience for clients. Some people are wired like that.
Yeah.
The whole big lesson is just like, do what's natural to you. Like, there's so many ways to make money in SEO. There's so many ways. And you'll find somebody who's like killing it with affiliate marketing, and you're like, oh, shiny object, I'm gonna go do that. Or somebody who's like got this huge agency, and you're just like, oh, I should just do that. That'd be so cool. Like, but if it's not in your personality, it's not in your lane, if it's not in your vibe, like it's just not gonna work. Like you can do it for a while and it's just sheer willpower, but willpower is finite and it expires. So me, I'm just better at ranking stuff and like text. Like I don't, I
Well,
don't
and
need
it's
all.
great to have people like that in your net, understanding what your core competencies are and having
Yeah.
a large network. I think that's one of the things I love about spring training, having been there for, having attended spring training several times, I think that that's one of the big things that I took away from it is like, you don't have to be, the best at all of that, but having a large network of, if I have a tech question, I'm calling Chad.
Mhm.
If I have a neuromarketing or like we're wanting to do UX UI kind of stuff, I'm probably calling Chad
Mhm.
just because I know that like that's where his passion is. He really, he's into neuromarketing, the psychology of things. And hey, what do you think about this? When having people like that in your, in your phone on quick dial, where it's like I can call up you, Terry, if I have any,
Scheme.
any schema questions, or I'm like, hey, what about this, and bounce an idea off someone. I think that ability to network and having that really strong contact list,
Or if I want to confirm that I really don't like working with clients, I'll just ask Terry a client story.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and unfortunately, Chad hears about it probably more than he wants to, just because we see each other weekly and go out to eat lunch, and yeah, we're usually bitching about the client side for sure. And he used to come over and ask me what would make my job easier, because we used to, he builds tools. You guys both build tools, and you guys are both addicted to Google Sheets, which we'll talk about here in a second. But he doesn't even ask me that anymore. He just waits for my client bitching. But yeah, it's funny. So I'll turn my phone here. So how did you guys both get into the Google Sheet side? How did you find the stuff you could do with that? Did you see somebody else doing some stuff and you just took it to the next level? Or I'm always curious because Google Sheets is fairly new. In the world of stuff, but you guys have done things with Sheets that, it's just amazing. So how did you guys get kind of addicted to Sheets, so to speak?
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Chad?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So my background into Sheets, like a lot of people, I kind of float around a lot of different groups. I initially kind of got my feet wet with Sheets through companies like Semantic Mastery, Heavy Hitter Club, Ranking Factory. Started getting involved with that. I started doing some beta testing on some different tools, and then again with having that understanding of like how a database works, how what you can do with a lot of stuff like that, that really kind of helped propel me into oh, you can also do this and you can also do this. It kind of sent me down a rabbit hole, and above anything else, I would say I'm probably a really tenacious person, where that once I get involved with something, it's like no, yeah, dinner's coming up, yeah, hang on to that thought. I'm right in the middle of coding something. Oh, it's the next day. Hang on. Let me handle this other thing first. So I tend to go down those rabbit holes, and for me, with Sheets, just finding out what you're capable of doing with that has been a really interesting journey. Beyond that, then I kind of talking with Chad on some different things, dealing with things like libraries, dealing with things that Sheets does have its limitations. So going beyond that right now, I'm doing a lot of stuff with different kinds of Python integrations, other kinds of database things that take the core foundation of what I'm doing with Sheets, and then expanding upon that. So
Kitty.
Cat visit. I've been gone for a week on spring break, and she just discovered I was home. She's
That's
kind
great.
of an outdoor cat, she's out there killing stuff and whatever else she does. So she didn't.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, the first time I saw you do stuff in the Sheets was, gosh, what was it? Maybe the Dallas event at Rockstars 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
At the little mastermind thing we did afterwards, or tech day, or whatever. And it was crazy because at one time I was really good at Excel. I mean, the formulas and all the different stuff when I lived and breathed in Excel, working for corporate, obviously before Sheets. And then, and then I look and see what you guys are doing with Sheets and going, gee whiz, man, that's just like freaking nuts, so, and it's neat because it's, you get to see, because you can even do some UI stuff with Sheets now that'll make it even look better, and do stuff to make it more pleasing. So it's just not like a glorified spreadsheet look. But yeah, no, it's awesome. I love seeing what you guys are doing with it.
Yeah, and with the integration of AI with Sheets, that's where I think for me things have really kind of catalyzed into, Sheets were really cool beforehand, but to be able to chain together like prompts, and I know Chad has a few tools that you can leverage with Sheets, where here's the prompt, here's the output, take that, then put it into another cell, and you can kind of chain these things together so that you're automating a lot of that kind of output, which is just fantastic. Like, I've had the privilege of getting to play around with some of Chad's tools, and just being able to put in, here's the topics that we want, and have it spit out like, here's some articles, here's different ways that we can leverage that. By the way, it'll schedule those articles for you, and it'll do a lot of these other kinds of things. So having that capability to really kind of streamline and craft what you're trying to accomplish in a much more efficient way, hands down, like it's one of those things I'm all about. So
yeah, for sure. It's just, and I think it's just going to be ever expanding, right? Whatever you can think of to do. So yeah, well, Chad, how did you get into the Sheet world? Was it because you were doing stuff before Sheets, but still stuff with Google?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really. It was probably Brian who got me to take it seriously, to be honest with you, because I knew that the semantic mastery guys were doing that kind of Ring stuff and that type of SEO.
Yep, stacks and syndication and things like that. Yeah,
and so I knew of it, but I didn't really get into that. I never really dug into that too much, but I think it was just, I don't know. It might have been your effed up sheet, or it might have just been something you showed me that wasn't published or something. But I started to, I just saw it as Excel. It didn't really click as a tool. It was just like Google's trying to take Microsoft's business. So they knocked off Word, they knocked off Excel, they knocked off PowerPoint. Like I just took it like that, and then when I started to see how it can be, I guess I would say like more live, more, dynamic, then that's when it started to get interesting to me. And so I would definitely say that was from you, Kato. And so I think I built G Sheet Publisher, and then that started to give me the idea of all the things that could really be done. And then just cruising through the marketplace, all the plugins or whatever they call it, there's so many, that expanded my idea a lot. I just kind of thought that was these people just charging for like little things that they can make. They're just making little pieces of whatever they're doing more convenient, just running calculations or whatever. And so, when I started integrating like Wikidata stuff in there and getting into entities, and then, integrated DALL-E in there and OpenAI and all that stuff. And then it was like, oh, okay, this is great. So now what I love about it is if I have an idea, then G Sheet is sort of the quickest way to get a front end for a new product without having to spend any money on a front end like Vue or React or or something. You know what I mean? Like it can often just be the front end, and then like now you're just doing the back end code, like getting it to do its thing or whatever. So I have a lot of little, it's a great way to MVP something.
Totally.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking cool.
It doesn't even need to make it out of G Sheets. I mean, it's a perfectly fine interface, for depending on the task or whatever,
Well, and I think what's interesting with the way that you've approached that too is that you can take G Sheets, you can take a lot of these kind of things like that, and really expand. Like the native functionality within G Sheets is incredible. Like, you can do the translate function. You can use it as a scraper. Like, a lot of people don't realize that G Sheets has like 97+% of everything that Screaming Frog has. So you can use it to scrape websites, to parse data, and do all of these other things. You can use it to translate content, and all of that's built right within Sheets. You don't have to go elsewhere to do that. Now you take things like Chad's Brain, you put it behind that, and now you can start pulling in other kinds of functionality in conjunction with what's already there. And so it becomes a really powerful platform, especially if you're talking, with the latest trends in AI, being able to pull in things like DALL-E images or recreate, repurpose your content, create new content, like any of that kind of stuff. The possibilities are really endless, and it just comes down to, can you think through systematically on what you want it to do, and then you can create it. It works.
That's pretty awesome. So, so there's different levels of, software development, so some people like you guys, I think you guys have replaced some of your old softwares that you were doing stuff with. I tell everybody, if you're not taking advantage of what Google gives us for free, you're crazy, so it sounds like a lot of you guys, especially Chad with your snappy SEO tools, you kind of, if you look at your original tools you did, can those be redone in Sheets, you think? Some of your old tools that you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just a user interface limitation. So like if it needs to be something where you're adjusting knobs and levers and whatever, like, yeah, you can do that in G Sheets, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it's something that's more of a straight shot sort of process, then yeah. For example, like I made a G site creator. So G sites are ranking really well. I think they're still ranking pretty well after this HCU update. So
yeah, they're still there.
Fingers crossed. You know what I mean? But so putting out G sites is kind of a pain in the butt to do manually. And so I just made a G site creator in G Sheets. So you just, fill up a bunch of rows and then you press go and then it goes and does all that for you. Like that kind of straight shot process, it's pretty straightforward, pretty helpful. You know what I mean? If it's the kind of thing where it's like, well, I need to adjust the temperature on this prompt, and then I need to stack it with, I need to connect it to Mistral, and then I need to grab a paragraph from OpenAI, and then I need to go to Anthropic, and that type of thing gets to be a little more. It's easier to have like a web interface for, because you can get more granular. But if you're just brute forcing something, or some sort of straight shot process, I think G Sheets is an excellent tool for that.
One of my favorite things that you built was a lot of us buy old Gmails in bulk.
Yeah.
And he built a tool that would change the recovery password and the regular password in one fell swoop. So you put 250 Gmails up there, and this tool goes and does all that stuff. It changes the recovery and the password, and so basically you can't get your old Gmail stolen back that you didn't use. So, yeah.
And that was a huge issue for still
time.
Can be a big issue depending on your vendor, but like
for sure,
it's that kind of an automated process is a fantastic. I mean, that's a great use case.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. So it's cool. So, well, I mean, and so this is a dumb question. I ask everybody this question. So how is AI going to change the way you guys do stuff with Sheets? I know both of you guys are using AI, but how do you think that's going to evolve even into the software development side of things? More so than just a normal SEO using AI to generate content and images and videos. You
I'm
guys
using
are using
code.
it, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
I'm using it to code, and what I'm finding for a lot of the way that we're approaching AI with code is a lot of people think that you can just like throw stuff into ChatGPT, it's going to spit stuff out, and you're good to go, or Gemini, or fill in the LLM that you're wanting to use. The way that we're approaching it is you have to have a foundational knowledge of what it is that you're actually trying to accomplish. For example, we built a site, start to finish in Bootstrap, but we did it all with AI. I had an idea of like, this is kind of the structure we wanted this to do. It needs to function like this. And, we were able to basically prompt it and create the entire website, from, through AI. And I think that that's where like AI can really help. It can shortcut a lot of stuff if you know what you're looking for. Now, the caveat to that is that sometimes it puts out really bad code, or from more of that, from the cybersecurity side of things, if you don't understand like the code that it's actually spitting out, you could potentially be inadvertently putting in backdoors or vulnerabilities or things like that. So it helps, and it helps streamline a lot of that process. Unfortunately, if you don't know what you're looking for and you're just kind of like, well, ChatGPT gave me the code, let's publish it and run with it, you can get into a lot of problems with that. So that it's one of those caveats, like understand what you're trying to accomplish, have at least that foundational knowledge of it, but trust but verify.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
What about you, Chad? What are you thinking? Obviously you got everything connected to your stuff. By the way, Chad's the one that did all our baseball images. So if you've seen the speaker images, the baseball ones I've been putting out there, he's actually going to show us how he did that on Tech Day. But what do you think as far as the current and future of all of this stuff?
It's very exciting. You could look at it and panic. You could look at it and be threatened. You could look at it and be excited. I think it's better to choose something positive. I think eventually, it's possible coding might even go away. I'm talking in the long run, because we're at the very alpha phase of, the very cutting edge phase of all this AI stuff. And so it's pretty good at writing code. And as long as it's not, it can't understand, a 10,000 line program or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't, can't process the whole thing. But if you need something that's sort of short and straightforward, and it doesn't, have to talk to too many other parts of the other code, it can do a really bang up job. So you can see the potential of it. It's empowered a lot of people who might not be strong at coding with getting coding projects done, because it rarely makes syntactical mistakes, and if it does, you can feed them right back and it can usually figure out what the problem is. So it sort of becomes a higher level problem. Like, do you understand design patterns, and can you architect a code base so that it works? And if you can, then you can go and have it create all these little pieces, these classes or functions, and get them all to like work together. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But eventually, it's going to be able to do all that anyway.
Exactly.
But so right now it's the kind of thing, like Brian said, where you need to, it needs oversight, and you need to know what it is that you're looking at, or where the potential pitfalls are, so that you can kind of close those holes and whatnot. But I would say it's more good than bad for sure.
Totally.
Now, do you think that has affected people that used to use Python and trying to learn Python, and all the different learning curves you have with these true software development things, that people would be better if you're a halfway decent techie guy to do more with, AI compared to going out and just learning, Python?
Well, this is might be a strange thing to think about at first, but like coding is a way of thinking. It's a way of breaking down a problem into like small parts that function in a particular way to serve the whole. And so learning coding is really about changing the way that you as a human think and or solve a problem, you know? So to me, that is always valuable. Being able to try on someone else's paradigm is really great for your own paradigm,
For sure.
Mhm.
So it's taken away the need to like worry about, the syntax of Python or, class typing something in JavaScript or I don't, you know what I mean? Like these type of like technical things, it just does that natively. But being able to think as a coder changes, because now you're empowered, right? And so
Yeah.
you can do the syntax, you can do the architecting, and together you guys can, conquer the world with Skynet or whatever.
Well, and I think my take on it too is I think that I think a lot of it does come down to eliminating some of those barriers. In general, I think AI takes someone that's mediocre or even that maybe not quite as skilled in coding, and you can make them a decent coder as long as they can think through the problem. Like Chad's saying, it's a different way of processing that problem. What it can do to someone that's an experienced coder is it can make you that much more of an asset to a company. And I see the same thing whether it's coding, content, things like that. A lot of people are freaking out because, content writing is going away. It's modified, and I know you've covered this in several of the podcasts. You're no longer a content writer; you're an editor, and it can take a mediocre writer and make you just absolutely stellar. It can take a phenomenal writer, and if you understand how things like conversions, the choice like word psychology, different kinds of things like that. If you understand those core concepts, it can take your writing, shortcut it down to, instead of having to spend a couple hours on a piece of content, it can shortcut that down into 15 minutes. And then you go back in as the content writer or content editor, put your little spin on it, make sure that everything's up to snuff where you want it to be, and then go out to the beach and have a margarita, or whatever you want to do. Go out and hit it, go out and do some golfing or things like that. What I think is just amazing about AI is that it takes what we're able to do, and if you're leveraging it properly, you can create better outputs in a fraction of the time. But again, you have to understand what that final output looks like. Where I do see a lot of problems with people, especially as it comes to AI content or any of that, is if you're just doing the push button approach, right? Yeah. And that's been something that's plagued our industry for years. It's I want the simple approach. I want to push a button. I don't want to have to do anything. And AI has allowed us to do a lot of that. But if you just refine it just a little bit more than the output that AI can, that it gives you, you can make something absolutely phenomenal.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. And then, especially putting it through Grammarly Pro at the minimum or something, just to kind of clean it up for sure. And then, because we've all had tools out there. Spin Rewriter. I've used Spin Rewriter for 8 years, so 7 years. I think I was one of the first people that got into that. But still, you still had to have that human touch. You still couldn't just mass produce articles and post them. Not unless you wanted to sound like a blubbering idiot if somebody actually did read one of your blogs. But and I think that's the biggest thing too. Now, what about in Solterra? We chose to just master one thing, and that was ChatGPT. So we didn't go into the Gemini or Claude or all these other writers and stuff. We do use ZimWriter. We do use Search Atlas as content tool. But as far as a platform, we just chose to master one, and because they're still coming out of the woodwork, So What do you guys feel about that? I know you guys use multiples, especially Chad on the image side, but Brian froze.
It depends on
There
what
you
you're trying to do, right? Like if you're, did we pause? There we go.
No,
Back?
you're good. I think.
Yeah, you get glitched.
Okay.
For a minute.
A glitch in the matrix, right? The thing that I find with it is, yeah, 100%. I would be more afraid of the guy that has one technique and has practiced it 1,000 times than the guy that has 1,000 techniques and practiced it once.
Yeah.
I think where for Chad and I, like, and I'm not sure your take on this, Chad, but when I'm playing and when I'm tinkering, that's when I'm going to want to, try multiple, LLMs. I'm going to try multiple different avenues. If I'm actually putting something forward for production, I'll probably limit that tool set into something that I know is like, this is going to work. Midjourney, I know that works. I know the output is fantastic for that. And then we can test it using things like Leonardo or, other LLMs or, other image models or whatever we're wanting to do, depending on the specific use case. But I'm probably going to limit it. One of my favorites right now is probably Perplexity. I absolutely love the interface on that. The ability for it to get real-time data and pull that back is awesome. So we use that in conjunction with ChatGPT, and also understanding what the capabilities are for each one of them, right? ChatGPT is fantastic at expanding content. Gemini it's not great at that. Gemini does give me more real-time data, though. So if I'm looking at, what are the, current trends in the last 2 weeks, that's been fantastic. There are tools that you can hook into ChatGPT that allow you to access the web in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And those are some things that we'll be going over at spring training. I've got a couple things with like HARPA and tools that are just you can do some really, really cool data scraping with it and then expand that into content. But yeah, for me, I think that I personally, I tend to go back to ChatGPT quite a bit more. I've played around with a lot of stuff in Gemini. It's just I'm finding like the output in a lot of what I'm seeing with ChatGPT is sufficient for what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. For sure. What about you, Chad?
Yeah, I think it's really important because Brian said something about 10 minutes ago. I was gonna chime in, but I'm gonna do that now. We've seen this kind of curve before where like music, for example, used to be like to record an album. It was kind of a big deal, right? You had to pay, you had to go to a studio, you had to like have people who are trained engineers, sound engineers, people who run the board, all that kind of stuff. And so that was sort of a bottleneck, And so the music output I always think it sounds like Scooby-Doo when you cough like that. If you said Scooby Snack at the end of that, it would just be spot on. Scooby Snack. Sorry. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, so like when computers came out and Ableton and Reason and these type of programs, like people could just make music in their bedroom, and that only got better and better. And so what happened is, in the old days, let's say only 1,000 songs could be produced a year. I'm just making this up so we could do easy math here. But then like when the computers came and everybody could do everything, it could be 100,000 songs. Like the internet was just flooded with garbage music,
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is like low skilled music. And so this same type of curve to me exists right now because used to be article writers and then you'd pay article writers and then you try to figure out, can you get a third world person to sound like a native English speaker and try to game that whole system or whatever. But that was sort of a bottleneck. But now everybody has ChatGPT. I mean, literally for free. And then if you pay $20, you can get, you know what I mean? So like you've got this massive, like with the music problem, like you've got this massive influx of content, but again, it's low skilled, low, it's just press button stuff. Well, you're doing it, and so is 1,000 other people in 1 mile radius of you, times all the, everything in the earth. So it just gets to be where, in this kind of curve, it comes up over and over again. I mean,
Sure.
You can even go back to the Gutenberg library printer and talk about it there, But so that's why I think, this big update happened with Google recently. I mean, that's sort of a no-brainer. We're just trying to filter out some of that low content. Whether they're successful at that or not, I don't know. But I think mixing the models to obscure your footprint, one, and two, in order to get something like really useful to the end user, get something that's like really valuable, is important. So I've been doing some tests, just some informal tests, but I've been building this feature into LinkCushion, which isn't launched yet, but I plan to launch it at spring training. And I'm going to show you how to mix these models, different LLMs, to get some things that are, pretty stunning. There's some really cool things that can be done. And I'm glad you said Perplexity, because I had kind of forgotten about that one. So I need to take another look. There's a sea of choices. So
that's exactly. That's why when we started looking at everything, and I went to that conference in Florida, us and the Rayburns, for Learn ChatGPT in a weekend, and total waste of freaking money. But the one thing that I did figure out why I was there, bored off my ass, but I did figure out that probably with any LLM, you just need to personalize it before you start asking it questions, and otherwise it's just a giant scraper. So, when we came back and we started playing with that, as far as, okay, we're gonna put everything that we can into ChatGPT. We actually hired 2 of our writers and brought them on board full time, as editors and on page people. But it was just, it was a whole different realm of, possibilities. Because like you said, it's, when I started putting the SEO class together, my on page class together, it brought me topical ideas that, I do, but I didn't think they were, just different ways to present them, just different ways of the thought process of, of a definition of something, and so we've helped, our big tech company, we've helped this guy write his 3rd book through ChatGPT. So it does some really, really cool stuff. But again, I think you have to treat it a little bit, a little bit more serious than just a giant scraper. So
you're really going to have a fun time with one of the topics that I'll be teaching on the Tech Day. And for anyone watching this, this is why you need to come. Again, Tech Day, we're not streaming that one.
Yeah, we'll not be streaming Tech Day.
Okay, so we'll give people a little bit of a primer and preface into why they should be showing up. So one of the things, that I was introduced to is Harpa, and this particular tool is fantastic. One of the ways that we're using this is, instead of just a glorified scraper, what we're doing is, if you're in Harpa and you're in the same tab, that's considered the same chat. So what I can do is I can go to Soltera, I can say scrape this page, and use that as context for your background or for whatever we're going to be doing. I know you have a process about like feeding in the data. We can do this real time with the Harpa plugin. So I can go and scrape Soltera. I can then, in that same tab, go to a different URL, let's say your Facebook page or SEO Spring Training, scrape this page. And now that adds additional context into that particular chat, if you will. Then I can go to, say, 38 Digital or Press Advantage or any of these, press release services. I can go to their terms of service page and say, give me a TLDR on what needs to be written, or like what their publishing guidelines are, right? So now I have all of this data, and we can have that all within the singular chat. Then I can turn the bot loose and say, now that you have this context about what the press release should be written about, you know about Solterra, you know about SEO spring training, you know about all of these things here going on. Now create my content, because we've primed it with a lot of things like that. So we'll do that with entire avatars. We have a repository where I've got a PDF of our avatar bios, like the entire like persona that we want to target, and then we'll feed that into the AI, and then also go back in with the kind of doing this glorified scraping mechanism, and it's fantastic content. I was just showing someone a little earlier this morning that we went into a Facebook group and scraped the entire Facebook group and gave me exact examples of, I'm looking for people that match these kind of affinities. They're business startups. They're a business owner. Give me the individual user name or names of people that match this persona. And it went through the page. It gave me all of the people that I need to reach out to. And here's their usernames. Here's exactly who you're trying to target.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's some pretty cool. And that's one of the things I love about Tech Day. This is the third year we've done Tech Day, and last year was probably the funnest Tech Day we ever did. And we ran out of time because we had to be out of that room like 2:00, hard time. Yeah. And this year we're pretty good. It's going to be the last, the afternoon, Sunday afternoon, and we really don't have a time frame to end, since we, originally we were going to have it on Monday, but it made more sense just to kind of, bring it all in and kind of close the conference out with the Tech Day. So if this is, there's a bunch of reasons to come to this live event. Is not just the networking and meeting these 30 speakers that are staying at the hotel with everybody, but then you get stuff that you're not going to see, like Tech Day won't be live streamed. The VIP event won't be live streamed. The cocktail party, stuff like that won't be live streamed. But, there's big time advantages to coming to a live event like this, to where now you can meet people and see people. And like you said at the beginning, Brian, you now have a conduit of, getting help that you didn't have before, so, and that's a big deal. I mean, especially in this business, I do a lot of audits, and, most of the audits I see are stuff that people I know, they learned it through a Facebook group, or they learned it through, heard it from somebody else, or they've always done it this way or whatever. And it's, it gets kind of frustrating to, keep seeing the same things over and over again. And they're trying to figure out why it's not working. They're throwing links at it. They're throwing everything they can at this thing. And, and we're just finding, at least on our side, that the initial structure of the website is not good. So, but I think the biggest thing about, the differences between coming live and coming on obviously, if you can't make it, yes, live stream it, because the live stream is going to be awesome. Because you're going to get the main stage, and you're going to get the breakout rooms, the mastermind rooms. Yep. So, but again, the live is where I think the growth comes from, so, if you're brand new in the business, or if you've been in this business a while and you're struggling to get past whether it be a monthly revenue point, or you're struggling with all the, I'm not a real big link builder. I'm not a link guy, so to speak. I'm an on-page person. But if I need link advice, Skylar does my links for me. We go to Clint. We go to the link people, so you don't have to master everything. You just have to have a conduit of help, when you see something you need help with. And otherwise, this can be a very lonely business if you're just seeing something and implementing, and you don't have any kind of testing structure or SOP to test with. But because, a lot of stuff out there makes sense, but something that makes sense might not work, because what makes sense to us, you got to remember, it's not humans that are crawling these websites and looking for things to rank us. They don't have feelings. They don't have, they're not that smart that people give them credit for. So anyways, real quick, I want to, we got one question here. I believe this is when you were talking about, when you started getting into Sheets. Do you think it's a great entry point for people to get into the more technical aspects for those of us who aren't super techy?
Absolutely. I mean, Sheets for a lot of people, as Chad mentioned, it's kind of an MVP or minimum viable product. So you're able to test out a lot of ideas within Google Sheets that you might not otherwise, be able to do, or it might require a larger, upfront knowledge on how to code something. Sheets is super simple. And again, there's a lot of built-in functionality that if you're trying to look at data, you can use a lot of the functions, again, like the import HTML, import feed. You can use a lot of these built-in functionalities within Sheets to act as like a web scraper or to just gather that data. Once you have that data, then you can start manipulating it or slicing and dicing it the way, however you feel necessary. But it allows us to just create those like rapid prototyping, even for like if you wanted to develop that into a full suite of software. It provides you with that capability for sure.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Elizabeth's comment, that was awesome. So I think the biggest thing, hold on, I need to share my screen. Here's our sponsors for this year's event. If you do come to the live event, man, swag's going to be off the chart. So, yeah, I might have to have a second or ship stuff home or something. Anyway, so I think the biggest thing, well, Chad, what were you going to talk about? Because I actually moved you into a breakout room, so you actually get the pleasure of doing the breakout room and Tech Day. So, what are you thinking about talking about in the breakout rooms?
In the breakout room. So, do I have more than one slot?
Yeah, well, you have 2 days, so you can do 2 topics, one each day, however you want to do it, or the same topic both days.
No, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to talk about how to mix LLMs and how to stack prompts to get a beautiful page, content page.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I was going to talk about is creating AI influencers, and then how to use those for SEO.
Is that kind of like the avatars that Tristan does? Kind of the same type of thing?
Yeah, similar. I mean, avatar to me means more of an ideal audience, fan audience member sort of thing. Like these are the type of people that you're targeting. Whereas the AI influencer is like a personality or somebody, who's, in this case, it's wholly fake. But what you'll find, when I present is that, people are paying. They don't care whether these people are fake or
Totally.
and they're still paying for sponsored posts. I mean, the currency nowadays is attention. There's an overwhelming amount of information. So having attention is where you can really shine, so it doesn't matter to these companies who are trying to get their word out there and have a budget if it's a fake influencer, if it's a real influencer. And oftentimes, the fake influencers are a lot easier to work with. They don't have any egos or drama or, I want M&Ms that are green in the green room clauses in their contract or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about that. And that's pretty interesting.
I thought was really interesting in when you spoke down in Florida a few weeks ago, Chad, was that like AI Tana, probably one of the more well-known AI influencers, and she's getting like 10 grand per post as a sponsored post. That's ridiculous for someone that is just like, she's a hot AI, and like that's part of the allure of it, is that like, hey, you have this very attractive AI model up here, but 10 grand for someone that's not even real, and again, like, to have that, to kind of have that pull and that amount of ability to monetize an AI image is just that's just mind-blowing to me.
Well, I mean, if you have an account that has, Yeah, we're going to dig into the details of that at the conference. But if you have an account that has 500,000 followers or 1 million followers, 2 million, and you tweet or whatever about an article that you just wrote on SEO, I mean, what do you think Google's going to think of that?
Right.
You know what I mean? What if you had an army of influencers doing that?
Come to Tech Day.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing is that, I mean, it's all about just different traffic from different places. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are, we've always known referral traffic's important, but I think it's even more important now. And when you can do something through AI, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be pretty freaking awesome, because I think we all need something automated like that's doing stuff. I mean, if you can, and then if you can make secondary money because of something like that, well, heck yeah. So, I mean, that's really freaking cool, because that's, the one area that we haven't even touched on in our business, in our company, is the whole video, and we're barely touching the image side right now. So, when you get into the video and producing all these shorts and all the stuff that people do now is just phenomenal. Especially shorts. I mean, I read a thing that shorts is bringing so much bandwidth traffic to YouTube now that people aren't even hardly watching the long videos anymore. They're just watching a bunch of shorts.
There's two different audiences now. There's an audience that they literally didn't even know that there was long form videos on YouTube. They're younger kids, but that doesn't, that just demonstrates that it's its own mature, self-contained, stands on its own two legs situation.
Yeah.
That's going to be really cool. So it's so how these influencers, are they more like social media driven influencers, like one particular platform like TikTok or?
No. I mean, those are influencers. Is a established business model at this point. I mean, there's marketplaces where you can go and buy shout outs and deal with, and they say, we have this much engagement or X amount of followers on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever. There's different ways to slice that. And all we're doing here is just inserting AI generated images, you know what I mean, of influencers. And there's a secret, I think, to doing that, which I'll talk about in the class. That's what I like about Tech Day. I mean, the last couple of years that you've had the event and whatever, it's just like, it's like a pissing contest, but a positive one. It's like everyone's kind of like outdoing the other guy, like, oh, well, I'm doing this. Well, I'm doing this. And then it turns into this like wicked cool thing where it's just like, oh, I don't know if I didn't want to share that, but it's already out there.
Out there now.
And especially because it's not streamed, I think, I always personally feel a little more comfortable, if something's.
Well, yeah, for sure. And it's just, that's the biggest thing. Last year, I mean, we had, Simon Cornelius popped up there and started showing us some of the stuff that he's doing.
Yeah.
It's just more of a, not really a free for all, but it's just, hey guys, I'm happy to show you something of what somebody else is doing. Dan Kurtz is going to be there this year, and he's going to show us. We've been using the Pixel that he has.
So cool.
Yeah. It's so awesome. And so he's going to be showing us how he uses that, and then how we use that for spring training. But yeah, it is. I think the best day is the golf day, but I was outvoted last year, so it's Tech Day. But so yeah, it's going to be an awesome event. You still have a couple weeks to get everything, get tickets available. If you are going to do the live stream, we're probably going to shut the live stream off pretty soon, just because I don't want to go to the next level of package, because it's like any package, you get to one level and then the next level is like 5 times that amount. So so don't wait. If you're on the fence to come to this thing, I've told this in every time we do a podcast. If you come to this thing and you aren't happy, or you didn't have, if you didn't come and find the people or find the person or find the topic that you were interested in, I'll make sure you do. If you let me know that you're trying to find something or someone or whatever. And the second thing is I'll give you your money back. we don't have unhappy people at this conference. We take a lot of pride in not just the venue, but we make sure that it's great for networking. We make sure the bar stays open late. We make sure the food's good on the property. We make sure it's in walking distance to, Old Town Scottsdale if you're the partying crowd, which was usually the younger people last year. But it's just like you said, this is our 5th year. It gets better every single year, and we're really looking forward to this year. This year happens to be the same weekend as the NCAA Men's Final Four. So people that are coming to the conference have already bought tickets for the Men's Final Four, which is pretty cool if you're a college basketball fan. And the Tech Day is the Diamondbacks are going to kick the Yankees' ass, or the VIP day. So if you want to come in early for the VIP day and go see the Yankee Diamondback game. And then Thursday is golf and gun range. So, those are also fun, especially the golf. So, Chad, you've been to every single one of them. What do you like about spring training?
I think I speak for Brian too. Like, you can come up to us and talk, and we're happy just to, nerd out on whatever it is that you're into. And I think a lot of the speakers are like that. And that's one of the things that I thoroughly enjoy about that, just finding out what other people, like I said, there's a lot of ways to do SEO and a lot of ways to have success at it, and just seeing what other people are doing, but also just being able to also go up and talk to them. Like, you don't get to do that at Traffic and Conversion Summit or, when there's thousands of people at a conference type of a thing. Like, you don't even get to see the speakers in person. Whereas this is the opposite of that, like I can go talk to Brian about whatever, or, there's a lot of new people that I haven't ever met that are coming, that are speakers. And I'm looking forward to that. So I think that's worth its weight in gold. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. And then even a lot of people in the audience have spoken at other spring training events.
Right.
So it's really awesome. We really try this year. I brought on Clint as a partner to try to help me with the speakers and the scheduling and everything. We had over 100 people want to speak this year, which is just crazy. So, of course we would have the same speakers every year, but we kind of like to mix it up, not just for the attendees, but for the speakers of the last event to come meet people, like Chad said, that they've never met before. So there's what the biggest thing I think we take a lot of pride in is that we try to think of all the stuff, right? So we try to think of food. We try to think of, what are people going to do after the event? Where they possibly can go? Or, is there something in town that people can go to? People are coming in early. They're doing the Grand Canyon thing, writing the whole thing off in your taxes. Bring the family. So, there's lots of stuff you can do that way. So, but big shout out to our sponsors again. These guys have been awesome. It's been getting everything finalized and everything has been a chore for Elizabeth. That's why she's not on right now. She's actually talking to the hotel. But the whole thing is that come to the event. If you're on the fence still, message me. If you have a problem or concern or whatever, message me. So if you're an agency and you want to bring some people, message me or Elizabeth, because Elizabeth has deals for people to bring their agency employees and stuff with them. And if you're a small business, a local small business, we had a law firm come last year from Phoenix, and they brought their in-house marketing team. So, it's not just for SEO professionals. It's for small businesses, because you're going to get to be able to learn how you can do this or your staff can do this better for you, and you don't need to hire somebody expensive like me. Anyway, so any last minute things, gentlemen?
No, just be there, be square.
I agree. So let me see. Each year is different. The speakers, the connections, and each year gets better. Yep, got it. Okay, perfect. And then, John Quackenbush just showed up. Sorry, John. I don't know if you got time frames mixed up, but Arizona doesn't change. Thank you for whoever thought that was a great idea and let everybody else change. But I think it's Arizona and South Dakota don't do daylight savings time. But anyways, thank you everybody for coming. We will have more of these this week because I'm bringing in more of the presenters that you guys haven't met yet. And then people will pop in whenever they can. So thank you again. If you have any questions, reach out. We're happy to help. So thanks again, guys.
Awesome. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.